Hey, sir. One screen open, sir. Ande ಒಂದು open. ಮೇಡಮ್ ಮೇಡಮ್ ಹೊರಗಡೆ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ ಹೇಳಿ. ಹ್ಞೂ ಮೇಡಮ್ ಆಯ್ತು. ಅವರು ಆರಾಮಾಗಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಮನೇಲಿ ಸರ್. ಹ್ಞೂ ಇಲ್ಲ ಯಾವ ಬೇರೆ ಹೊರಗಡೆ ಆಯ್ತು. ಹ್ಞೂ ಆರಾಮಾಗಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಹಾಂ ಹಾಂ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ, ನಾನು ಬೆಳಗ್ಗೆನೆ ಬಂದೆ, ಹೊರಗಡೆ ಒಂದು ಶೂಟ್ ಇತ್ತು, ಹಂಗಾಗಿ ಹೊರಗಡೆ ಬಂದೆ. ಬೆಳಗ್ಗೆನೆ ಕಾಲ್ ಮಾಡಿದೆ. ಪ್ರತಿಮಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಹಾಂ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಇಲ್ಲ ನಾಳೆ ರಜಾ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ. ನಾಳೆ ಪ್ರತಿಮಾ.
Welcome everyone to this conference on digital emerging and exponential technologies. We are delighted to have you all here. We now begin the plenary session 1, the theme being regulating intelligent care, exploring the governance of AI and machine learning in healthcare and medicine. I would now like to introduce the chair and the speakers for this session. It is a great honor to introduce the chair for this session, Professor Dr. S.P. Jogarao, a distinguished academic and legal practitioner. He brings nearly 3 decades of experience in legal education, including serving as a founding faculty member of the National Law School of India, University, Bengaluru. He is currently leading Legal Excel and provides expert legal and consultative services across the healthcare sector, working as the intersection of law, medicine, and technology. We are truly honored to have him chair this session. Welcome, sir. I would now take the privilege to introduce our first speaker, Mr. Nandakumar Krishnachat, who currently serves as the General Counsel at Biocon Limited with over 17 years of rich experience in legal field. He brings a unique blend of academic and corporate expertise. He began his career in academia and was honored as the Hauser Research Scholar at New York University, where he contributed to global legal research and teaching. Transitioning into the corporate sector, he now leads the legal function of the India's leading biotech companies, playing a key role in major milestones including mergers, acquisitions, and strategic growth initiatives. His contributions have been instrumental in shaping Syngene as a globally recognized research organization. We are truly honored to have him with us today. Welcome, sir. I would now take the privilege to introduce the speaker two for this session, Mr. Karthik Kanappan Sarvanan. He is a seasoned global leader with over 2 decades of experience, currently serving as Global General Counsel, Chief Compliance Officer, and CISO, advising multinational corporations on complex regulatory frameworks and IPO readiness. He brings extensive expertise in global compliance, corporate governance, and enterprise risk, including emerging areas as AI regulation, and his advised boards and executives on high stakes of strategic decisions across jurisdictions. We are honored to have him with us today. Welcome, sir. I would request the first speaker, Mr. Nandakumar Krishnajit, to kindly take over the session. Welcome, sir. And all right. I request Professor Dr. S.P. Jogarao to kindly take over the session.
Good afternoon, friends. Am I audible? Okay. Illustrious panel, distinguished audience, I think half of the job is done. Because of the paucity of time, I do not propose to project my PPT. I will try to present in essence what I would want to say, maybe in 10 minutes time, and the remaining time will be shared by the two panels. regulating intelligent care, governance of AI and ML in healthcare and medicine. That's the theme. To begin with, I just would like to clarify one thing. Lot of research, lot of reading, interaction led to a particular way of sharing and dissemination of information on this topic. But I don't think I have reached a stage where I can share my independent thinking on the subject. I think it takes some more time. But the issues are very, very clear. To that effect, there are three important articles from among many articles which I was going through for the last 2 to 3 years. I advise you to refer Medical Law Review, March 2026, Professor Bird's article on AI in healthcare. Similarly, Oxford University undergraduate students journals article on the medical negligence liability. And there is a very interesting blog post. She is neither a doctor nor a lawyer, but she brings out how AI model requires to be taken note of in ethical model for artificial intelligence. The issues, according to me, are very, very clear. Number one, it is not only evolutionary, but I think AI in healthcare is revolutionary as well. The kind of advantages, the precision, the positive outcomes, I think there's a lot of research. AI in healthcare has attracted billions of dollars, where upskilling of AI into the manpower is something the major challenge now. As a consequence, unlike other domains of knowledge, healthcare has received remarkable investment. And already the outcomes are very, very clear. For example, AI assisted lung diseases examination or AI assisted MRI analysis or AI in ophthalmology or multidisciplinary cancer care and treatment. In that way, there are so many positive developments. But that does not mean AI is without any problem. AI has many problems which we don't even understand. The major problem what I have come across in my reading is that it is not merely an error or misdiagnosis or a potential harm to the patient, but basically it is algorithm-based bias, which is very, very important. As a consequence, the kind of work, the machine learning based on the target, etc., if it does not focus on the ethnicity and the cultural and anthropological reasons, the outcome will be entirely different. As a consequence, there are many, many problems. That's where the legal accountability matters. One common question asked is, suppose if I am as a radiologist using AI tool, and the AI tool misses red flagging of a particular tumor, and subsequently the patient dies. The question is whether the doctor can be subjected to medical negligence. Similarly, there are other players as well. What about the hospital? What about the AI manufacturer? What about the AI developer? There are so many stakeholders. The question is whether the existing understanding of medical negligence, does it fit into the AI hierarchy? What is the best way to decide on what basis we adjudicate medical negligence in this country? It is called a Bolam test. Bolam test is the benchmark whereby, depending upon the kind of evidence, that is, whether there is a breach of standard of care or not. And Bolam, as improvised in the year 1999 in Bolito, it makes it very clear. That is, it is not merely reasonable standard of care in the light of expert evidence, whether the doctor has a logical basis for following that. In that way, these two principles, the question is, the conundrum is, whether what happens if there is AI? My dear friends, there are so many questions, but there are not many answers. Not that there are no case law. the existing tort law liability, I don't think it really addresses the question. Therefore, there is a need for an improvised version where the kind of accountability which requires to be placed. There are many issues. The industry doesn't want accountability. The person who develops algorithm doesn't want accountability. Hospital says, I have not done anything, I have just procured the tool. The doctor says, I have relied upon whatever the AI told. The only constant factor is the harm caused to the patient. Therefore, what needs to be done? My dear friends, the blog post what I referred to, she wrote very interesting perspective. She said, a pill which you take for a particular disease, etc., is it subjected to any kind of scrutiny? Has it been subjected to any clinical trial? If yes, why not an algorithm tool? Why algorithm tool without testing, without there being a kind of validation, how it can be introduced in the market? You don't go by the investment, you must go by the trust that is enjoyed by the patients. Therefore, she advocates, which rightly so, saying there is a clear regulatory phenomena which on one hand enhances and encourages innovation, but doesn't compromise the patient's safety. Therefore, the model, what has been stated by two young undergraduate students of Oxford University, there are three limbs. Number one, the most important, Bolam and Bolito we have to follow in order to understand whether there is reasonable standard of care and breach. Second, whether AI tool, is it validated? Unless and until it is validated, you don't go by the market campaign of a particular company which introduces. And related to that, under no circumstances, AI can substitute human element. AI can only supplant and supplement. Therefore, a doctor cannot relegate his clinical responsibility by saying, I have relied upon AI too. And the third most important thing is, the courts have to identify and make accountable not at the cost of any kind of problem for technological innovation. You know why? Every one of us, we are aware that AI saves time, AI saves lives. But having said, that does not mean AI substitutes medical clinical decision making. Therefore, CDSS, one of the most important advancement in AI in healthcare, that is clinical development support system, may I tell you, received a great deal of criticism because of the black box, where the black box very clearly says what needs to be done, but the physician doesn't know why it needs to be done. Therefore, explainability. My dear friends, the future of AI in healthcare, in my opinion, warrants a clear, neutral, objective legal accountability where all the players must be subjected to equitably and responsibly. Thank you so much.
Am I audible? Firstly, I thank you, the organizing committee, to give me the opportunity to come over here and make myself present this topic. Most importantly, I need to acknowledge the association what I have with this institute. My career started with this institute as a faculty, I was one of the faculty in this institute, and my association with Anita Madam and Mallikarjun sir has gone way beyond the career what I'm actually continuing right now. Thank you very much for this opportunity, sir. First instance, and obviously, I am honored to chair the share. To be on this dais where Professor is sitting with us, and it is so humbling to be part of this chair for that matter. Thank you very much. Coming back to what I'm going to share today, I'm going to present two facts. I'm not going to decipher this in the way in which Professor actually deciphered the legal jurisprudence behind this kind of a thing. I'm going to present a fact. That's the expectation from an industry expert as such for that matter. There are 2 points which I'm going to present as a fact. First point is about the AI technology being used in the pharmaceutical industry. The second point is about where it stands at this point in time in terms of authority given to the regulators when an AI drug or an AI tool is being used, kind of a thing. I present the fact as I see. I leave it for the interpretation for you guys to do and also for legal remedies here to take it forward. First point, I come from an industry, is a pharmaceutical industry. I work as a legal counsel for a biocon. It actually manufactures the drug. And manufacturing of the drug doesn't just start from the going into the manufacturing facility and doing the manufacturing activities. It starts as a discovery phase. Then it goes into the clinical phase, where actually clinical phase is largely the development. Once a particular molecule is discovered, there's a potential benefits to a disease target. It goes into the development phase, and once the development of the molecule into a drug is done, then a dossier will be submitted, rims and rims of material will be submitted to the authorities, and the authorities have to review that document. And finally, after all the clarifications being provided, they actually give the approval. Once the drug is approved is when actually you will be able to market the drug in the territories where you have got the approval. Each country has their own standards, their own methods to approve a drug to be marketed or sold in their country. In the traditional world, in the world where we are in today, even today for that matter, a drug to come to the patient finally will take anywhere time between 8 to 12 years from the time it is identified that it is a potential candidate go through the process. 8 to 10 years is a very long time. And besides the era which you guys are going to be in, 8 to 10 years is sort of a lifetime for you guys. In that sense, AI technology has come in and it has been intervening into all of these cases. And I'm going to present only one part of it, basically, the discovery phase. I'll give a distinction how it actually happens in old world versus the new world. In the old world, what happens if a protein is identified having a deficiency or having a problematic area which causes the disease indications? Once a protein is identified, and if you're targeted saying that I'm going to come up with a drug to rectify this deficiency in this protein, you would actually look for molecules. Which molecules will actually go to that protein, reach to that protein specifically, and try to rectify that disease indications. Do you know how many molecules which will be identified at the initial stage which can reach to that molecule? Oh, sorry, protein. Will it be in terms of hundreds? Will it be in terms of thousands? Just to clarify, it will be in terms of 50 to 60,000 molecules will be identified at the initial stages. That these are the molecules which will go through the assessment to see whether this molecule will reach that protein, will bind with that protein, and then probably further technology will be done to modify that molecule so that the protein can be remediated. Right? This 50,000 molecules, up to 50,000 molecules, I'm just putting a rough number around it. It could be large numbers as well. All of these 50,000 molecules will go through in vitro studies. In vitro studies means the studies which happens on the lab grown organs. I'm not speaking of organs like kidneys and heart and livers being produced in the lab. These are the cluster of proteins which mimics the protein having the disease conditions. Right? These lab testings will actually continue for a period of time. And this 50,000 molecules, which initially started to be the potential candidates, can come down up to 5 to 6,000 molecules through the testing processes. Right? Once we come to 5 to 6,000 kind of a molecule numbers, basically, then it goes into further in vivo studies, basically. Right? In vivo studies is the study which happens within the body. Now, obviously, these molecules are not directly administered into human bodies. It could be administered into animal bodies, small animals, then big animals, then large animals, kind of a thing. Finally, what happens here is after all of these studies, toxicologies and other things have been identified. It will come down to a number of around 400 to 500 molecules will go through the race. And these 400 to 500 molecules will further, there are various parameters in which these molecules will be further tested. Like say, some of these molecules are promising in terms of the disease indications reaching to the protein and rectifying the protein as such. But these molecules may not be scalable. It's good at gram level, kg level, but it cannot go to few hundred grams. The scalability will be a problem, and hence finally it will come down to 2 to 3 molecules, which finally gets into the lead and goes through further in the process of drug discovery. All of these things would take huge amount of time. Imagine 50,000 molecules going through the process of in vitro studies. And then that we call it as DMTC cycle, that is drug making and testing and analysis, right? DMTA cycle. The DMTA cycle itself, only the discovery phase itself, and the remaining toxicology studies to identify which molecule will go further will take 5 to 6 years. Imagine the amount of funds, human resource, infrastructure which is required to support this kind of studies. It's huge. But to today's world, what's happening? It's already infused. I'm not speaking of old world versus today's world. I'm speaking of hardly 3 to 4 years time period, actually. In 3 to 4 time period, the 5 to 6 years time period in discovery phase has been reduced to 3 to 6 months. Right? This is the level of infusion what the AI technology has given to the drug manufacturing or pharmaceutical industries. Right? This has reduced the cost. This has reduced, most importantly, the timeline by which the drug is made available to the patient. Right? Similar would be the process. I can go on elaborating the same kind of process in the development phase also, for that matter. The development phase is once a molecule is identified, it has to be synthesized for the purpose of use, for testing purposes and for the purpose of sampling to the regulators also, for that matter. You would probably synthesize these molecules in terms of grams first, then it goes into the kgs, then it goes into the 100 grams and 100 kilograms kinds of a thing. Again, the same technology has introduced. You would have AI technology which is helping to find out the best possible route through which these molecules can be synthesized most efficiently, most expeditiously, and then probably reach out to the desired outcome. That being said, that's a fact which I wanted to convey to you, saying that AI is a technology, real technology, which is used in the pharmaceutical industry, which is benefiting the pharmaceutical industries and also the patient at the end by this technology. But nowhere regulator is here. There is no regulatory requirement over here. You can use any technology to come up with these molecules, to go through the process of drug discovery program and development programs to bring the drug into the market, right? That's one part of the story which I wanted to present to you. The second part of the story is about where the authority is lying today in terms of AI drugs or AI embedded technologies for that matter. Let me start this second part of the story with a small question. How many of you guys have recently visited any physicians in the recent past? Has there been any experience of yours saying that the doctor suggesting saying that go and use Apple Watches as I don't know what and all technology you have to monitor your parameters? Has anybody prescribed you to go wear this Apple Watch, come back the data set and give me the data set? Have you been ever diagnosed or advised you like that? Have you been? Wow, that's a good question. Yes, what I'm trying to bring to you guys here is, can an Apple Watch, the data which is coming out of the Apple Watch, which counts your pulse rate, which counts your BP, which counts, I don't know what the steps what you've taken in the day, the tax what you did in the day, this number of staircase what you did, number of jumps what you did. Can this be used by the clinicians to give you medications? Is the question which I wanted to convey this. Is a question. Okay, I'll go with the answer. No, largely no. I'm not saying that no, absolutely, because as rightly you saw in this room itself, there is a person who is actually using a technology, is actually using a tool which is being used by a clinician in giving her medication. 99% of the devices which is available to you, these are all consumer devices, which is available to you, cannot be used in the medications or healthcare systems. It's because it is not gone through the rigorous process of getting the approval from the authorities. When I say approvals, it is the FDA authorities of the local territories where you are actually in. Right? None of these tools have been approved by them. What it means here is, any drug which comes to you has gone through a very rigorous process of testing, analysis, and approval from the authorities. Only then it will be allowed to be used in the healthcare systems. Now, I'll tell you a fundamental difference between the old drug versus the AI embedded drug, right? Old drug, obviously, the drug is tested for its efficacy, toxicity, and its benefits against the risk for the disease indications. And it is expected to have the same outcome throughout its lifetime, right? It's the very, and it has been approved by the authority. Authority knows that you take the same paracetamol, it will have the same indications. Even after 20 years, if you take the same paracetamol, it will be the same thing. When it comes to a drug which is embedded with AI, when it comes to a tool which is embedded with AI, the very edific of that tool or the drug is, that's a starting point. The drug which is having AI embedded in it will be changing its color, nature, depending upon the input what it gets in the clinical environment. Right? This is the fundamental difference. The old-fashioned drug has gone through the approval process. It knows what is the outcome. The outcome remains same, static for lifetime of its use, basically. Whereas an AI-embedded drug will keep on changing. Today's regulatory authority, regulatory environment does not have rights or authority to verify or require tests and go through the stringent processes of evaluation post-marketing phase. Once an AI embedded drug is approved, the drug authorities don't have approved and it is in the market. Drug authorities don't have rights to go back and ask consistently, constantly give me the variabilities or the tests or the analysis which is happening in the market. That's a gap what we find it here. And this gap is not only here, I'm speaking of, it's a global gap. Right? Nowhere in the world has FDAs in US also don't have the authority to go require a product which is already in the market to go through the testing and get back the assessment what needs to be given. Now, can we live with this gap? What options you have? Since it is a student crowd, I will leave this question to you. Please explore this. Probably if chair provides me an opportunity at the end of the session, I will give my views on this thing. But today's gap is this. These are the 2 points which I wanted to convey on this occasion. Hopefully it serves the purpose of initiating a discussion about it, thinking through practically what happens. Thank you.
You, Mr. Nandakumar. I'm sure we will find time to get to know your views at the end of the session. Now may I request Mr. Karthik to come and enlighten us.
Hi everybody. So just a quick disclaimer, I passed out from this college in 2006. It's been 20 years, gone into the industry, got lost, worked for IT, services, pharma. But today I believe I have the right pedigree to address this crowd, which is more dynamic and more exciting. So, first of all, thank you the college for the wonderful opportunity and distinguished guests. Since they have given you the complete perspective, I like the way how, Sir Nandakumar spoke about, gave you the perspective of what actually happens in the pharma industry. I tried to explain that in the previous session, right? I mean, anybody is coming from the previous session still sitting here? Okay. Okay, so I believe with that context being set, I would like to, discuss a few practical, and I want to have that engagement, right? I'll give you a series of scenarios, and I want you to guys to show with a show of hands whether you're comfortable, not comfortable. If not, why? If yes, why? Can we do that? It's pretty exciting. Okay, the first one. Imagine that you go into the hospital. An AI system reviews, scans your entire body. And then the recommendation is that the doctor tells you the system is highly accurate and system is recommendation that you need a surgery. Now, how many of you people, if that were to be the situation that you face, you would be comfortable to subject your body to a surgery? Show of hands. How many of you people will not be comfortable? Why? Second opinion. When you get a chat GPT results, do you go for second opinion? Assuming the first opinion we understood, right? Okay. Now that's what is called as, as a, what do you go and talk to the doctor then? Like you'll ask for some clarifications, right? What will be the question that you will ask? Let's make it quick. It's very interesting one. Quick.
Why, sir?
Why? Yeah. Okay. Anybody from this side? Or you'll nod the head? Or you'll say something? What would you say? You'll ask something? Why? Yes.
How rare is
How?
rare is the case of surgery into a surgery of this particular
So you're questioning whether the question is right or wrong, is it?
problem case?
Huh.
Is this
Okay, so basically you will be asking for additional clarifications, like why surgery? Okay. So everybody have a view. At least the majority is that you ask for why. But the answer is not, the question is not that. What if the doctor says the system is highly accurate, but we don't know how it reached this conclusion? Would you still be comfortable? That's the concept of explainability, right? The patients require that explanation before a treatment is administered. Let's go to the next scenario. The same situation, went through the surgery, something went wrong. The hospital says the doctor relied on the AI. And the doctor says, I followed the system recommendation. The company says that we only provide technology, AI technology. We are not the doctors. We are not going to be accountable and responsible. If you want to make a case against, who would you make against? Who would you sue? Hospital that deployed. But before that, they will ask you to sign something. You guys all have Instagram, Facebook? Have you guys also have the problem? I accept, agree, okay, finish, next. You guys all have the problem, right? You don't see. You keep searching for like what is next button, next finish. So you don't know what I've been agreed to. Now I tell you a very practical example to the diabetic patient. It's a real scenario. So there was one technology company that actually produced software that actually can, when you every day morning you take the sugar levels and then you tell it, and then it will do the calibration and analysis and tell you last night what was your dosage, whether did it help you to regulate the sugar. If not, today what should be your dosage, right? It should be high, it should be low. If the sugar levels are low, it will tell you that don't take too much of insulin because it will wipe away all the other sugar as well. Now, then it was reviewed and then it was approved and then it was tested, and suddenly many people started falling ill and they fell and somebody hit their head. And the reason was most of the patients suffered absolutely low levels of sugar. When we went back and looked at it, why this is happening, what was the surprising thing? The calibration did not work out well. And you know why? When we went to the technology provider, they said, like, you know what? There is an upgrade version 2.0. I have made it available. It's a patch. But the user, whenever the pop-up came, he just did not accept it to upgrade it. Right? Now the patient is now in this case, had the patient touched or say like upgraded, he would have probably not have faced this calibration issue. Possible? Right? And you know what is the calibration issue? The iOS came with a version 14.1 or 14.3 or 14.4. So your software also needs to be upgraded. Your GPay, your all the Paytm and all will ask for an upgrade, right? Sometimes you can say, okay, no. But if you're expecting a critical situations like this and you don't upgrade, this can be the consequence of it. Now, they are telling, I have given the upgrade. Okay? But people did not do it. What should have been the right approach? If I were to hold the company that manufactured that software, what they should have done or they missed it? They missed something. They could have prevented something. Say it again. Did he come from the previous session? Very nice. So imagine Though the vulnerability was there, this technology company allowed the users to continue to use the older version. Had they put a prompt that says like unless you upgrade, you will not be able to use it. But they what was driving the decision, suddenly if I do that, people will stop using it and they'll go for somewhere else. The decision was not based on the algorithm, or if they lose the market share, that was the primary concern of it. Now that's the kind of a real life issues that we face. Let's go to the third one. That's what is an accountability. You will be finding it very difficult to who is going to be accountable. Is it the AI service provider or the hospital, or is it somewhere I've given the consent? Can we actually pass it on? The third scenario I'm talking about. You gave your health data to the hospital 3 years ago. Today, the data you figure out that today the data is being used to train the AI systems without informing you. Okay, how many of you are okay with your data being reused like this? Do you guys understand what the importance of data? It's a difference between the world when nobody wanted to follow, but then again a world came, everybody please follow me. There is data, every information is very, very critical. Right? Let's say if you have a serious health condition, you wouldn't want to share that information with them. Right? But what if you have given the consent only for the particular treatment? But then now the AI, that data is being used to train the AI. I'm asking generally, would you be comfortable? Okay, so the earlier you already given the consent. Is the consent valid now? Why? Scenarios change. The beauty of the current situations. Have you guys used Claude? Claude Cowork? You've heard of it? There is something whenever you put in the prompt, there is one small thing called thinking, thought process. Have you ever tried to open that and see what happens there? What does it do? You're coming from the previous session, right? Okay. It actually builds agents, and those agents will talk to each other. They will find a problem and they will find multiple solutions. And then there is another bot that tells which of it is the right solutions, and then it will finally recommend and take action. On the fly, the decisions are being made. Right? There are companies who are using your data to figure out whether the investment needs to go into the therapeutical area at all. That is not the decision that you give consent when you give. And imagine if the data is being used by the bot which is taking decisions on its own. It has changed, does not even care about what you're consented for. Right? So that's what is called as what consent you gave, the purpose of it is changed. It's called as dynamic consent. Today we do not have that. With all of those things, over reliance is where the real challenge is. People all go to we all had a problem, right? Some problem is if we go to Google and then we select doctor, Google said this is the problem, maybe do I have this condition? And by the way, people go to doctor for second opinion. Or people go to doctor and then go to Google for second opinion. So you need to rely upon the expertise. So these are all the key challenges, right? What I spoke about. One is your explainability, accountability, the dynamic consent, and the bias, lack of bias. Bias is something is very, very critical. You know that sometimes you find that the drug that works in a particular set of people will not work for the other set of people. They call it they need to do some genetic study, right? Because it's not just that the drug is not working for you. Sometimes your body will adversely react. Most of the critical drugs has to be done that particular test as well. And then they would put in a box label. You are not supposed to use for Asians, Americans, or whatever. Right? That means the drug has not been tested for that. Or it's tested, but it's been adverse. But if the data that I am providing to the AI to train does not have that test, it's going to completely ignore. It's probably going to say it works in 90% of the people. So it should ideally work for you. But you may be part of that small section of the people where your body is just not going to accept that particular drug. In fact, worst case, it might be an adverse as well. Right? So the bias is also real. So the key question here is, does the legal system have the right controls in place? The answer is no. People are still figuring it out. The law is doing a catch-up game. We are currently still surviving with law that was being made when AI as a concept did not exist. Even today, people think that one formula that is AI. There is a huge difference between what is an artificial intelligence and just an intelligence, right? So it's very, very critical. You understand those differences. You understand this accountability, explainability are very, very key for the healthcare sector. Particularly when it comes to the patient, you put yourself into that place and then you figure it out whether that's right thing for me. If it is not right for me, it's probably not right for anybody, right? So with that, I will just conclude saying that there is a lot of work to be done. At least you guys right now in the college, you are at the right time to go and find answers for each of these things that could definitely going to help you solve a lot of problems and be one step ahead of the market. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Karthik. Friends, we have completed the presentations well within the time. Therefore, we can spend some more time for any specific question or response. And I hope you remember Ms. Nandakumar did ask you certain things, and he said if time permits, he wants to share his own opinion. Therefore, there are two ways. Any open questions to the forum, please go ahead. If not, I'll ask Ms. Nandakumar to give his response. I normally follow, even today, National Law School one thing. I open the forum for questions. If the questions are not forthcoming, I pose questions. Yes, I'm very happy that my colleague. Yeah, go ahead.
Liability.
Hmm.
So, it's the liability. The response. Yeah. The patients are. So, how we are fixing that liability?
The concluding sentence of Mr. Karthik's presentation is relevant here. As matters stand, what you are free to please go ahead. As what we experience in the current context is the benefits and risks we are learning. But when it comes to fixing the accountability, still our experience here has not matured that level. You remember one sentence he made an observation. The existing law with regard to accountability, we are talking about a centuries old principles. At that time, AI was not even in existence. Therefore, lot of work needs to be done. Already, different research groups in different universities, they have published remarkable findings. But still, that requires to be tested. In India, I don't think we have even commenced. For example, European Union experience brings out a three-layered approach when it comes to the accountability. But in India, we are first in the first dimensional, that is trying to understand AI, what kind of benefit, risk, etc. Therefore, lot of research needs to be done. That's where Mr. Karthik said, looking at the students, I think you need to bring out that particular dimension. Karthik, would you want?
Yeah, so in terms of an accountability and liability, right? From an industry, we are now relying upon most of these international standards. That is, at the grassroots level, any systems that is being implemented, right? We typically call this as different tiers, tier 1, 2, and the tier 3 are the ones where any wrongdoing can result in the endangerment of a human life. The level of scrutiny and the control gets much higher as you go higher up the ladder, right? And there are things which you cannot completely depend on the AI recognition. Let's say, for example, in parallel, the Facebook, they have this content moderators. You don't know billions of horrible videos, child abuse, animal abuse keeps coming. and there is a real human who's sitting there and seeing those things every single day, and they need to report it. But the volume is so much, and the trauma that an individual goes through is so much, that you started using the AI. It has certain elements of it. You can quickly put together. It will flag and say this has child pornography or it's an animal abuse. But the law still says only a human can file a complaint. That means a human should still view those gory content before you make a report. Right? So in parallel, if you see, we have technology in this case where you can take people away from watching these things, but the legal system in parallel is still forcing somebody still have to see, so that it will be considered as a valid consent to do. It's a liability while it cannot, the law is still catching up. Accountability is still catching up. You need to make sure you have the right controls. Audit is very, very important. Today, there is, I don't know whether you've heard it, a monkey, there's a famous selfie monkey photo. You know that, right? That the question was, who owns the photo, copyright of the photo? Is it the cameraman, or is it the zoo, or is it the monkey itself? They said what? Only a human can have the right to intellectual property. Likewise, law is evolving, controls are still being put. Today, it's sector-wise, absolutely there is no uniformity. At some point in time, it will all culminate to the point where this becomes a very, very basic. There are ISO standards also. So long as you comply with that, you will be able to ensure the accountability. And the penalties are going to be very high. The only way to bring in enforcement is to punish. Somebody violates, that's the only way the corporates are done. That's one way of looking at it. So the controls. Yes, please go.
So actually, as so A not a probability either. So it lacks that human empathy, like the but during in all these care is designed for figuring out solutions that are more related to human solutions. So when such mistake like AI goes thinking on its own and gives us solutions that are so not so humane, and the problem occurs in such a way that there is no compassion behind the solution that is. So who will be hold up for such scenario? The creator of such AI system does not intend it to be a non-compassionate solution, but then it will give out certain solution based on the probability that it's a logical way of thinking and empathy way of thinking. So how will we, build a person account of such?
See, you also have this strict liability concept. Usually what happens, those are there in existence to protect the vulnerable. Today, they'll say what? Take it or leave it. But if you choose to, comes with its own drawbacks. But when you have no other choice, limited by those options, you have no choice, but the choice is actually not the real choice. You have to take it. Right? In such circumstances, strict liability, making sure that it really doesn't matter whether I consented or not. If that's the high risk, this cannot get into the production or launch unless you have these parameters here. By the way, even today, the drugs that you are using is not 100% safe, by the way. Right? And there are many drugs we have never studied a long-term study. Today, what you are looking at, even 10 years of study will still not be sufficient. What will happen to a person 50 years down the line? There is always a risk. Right? Some of those things can be contemplated so that we can detect and control it right now. Some things will keep evolving. But if a company knows that this is going to be the absolute consequence of this and still recklessly do that, the accountability threshold should be much higher. I hope that answers.
I would like to add on to the same point. See, what authorities look when actually they give their says whether it outweighs the risk, what is known at that point. Today, for whatever reason, they feel okay, there is risk in this drug, but it is outweighing benefits are outweighing the risks.
That's the basics on which any drug authority is around. And while I say that drug authorities don't have rights to verify the strictest way in which they actually give their post market, they do have a surveillance kind of action. So only to see if there is something terribly going on. That's the point on that. Basically, all drugs do come with a risk. The approval which is given for the drug means if the benefits, what is known at that point in time, is outweighing the risk, and that's why it's on. That's one way of looking at it. I'll take this opportunity to go forward what I actually proposed when I started this point. Like, what did I say? There is a gap. I mean, as a post-marketing, authorities don't have right to the way in which they rigorously don't require the testing to be done before a product drug is allowed to be marketed. For an AI embedded tool, there is nothing at all. We don't even know. I mean, once an AI embedded drug is administered to you or an AI administered tool is being used, the tool has drifted away. We don't even know whether it is drifted towards beneficial levels or it has drifted away from what it was supposed to do. That's exactly what Karthik kept on telling about it. But can we wait for what are the options available to us? That we will wait for the lawmakers to pick up this point, come up with a law towards it, empower the drug authorities to ensure that these drugs, even after the post-market stage, are subjected to evaluation, are subjected to strictest performance levels. Can we wait for that? How much time it takes? In your experience, even in today's world, I may put a number to it. I don't have any basis for that thing. Minimum 3 to 4 years. Can we wait till that point is achieved? My response to it is a mutual obligation. It's an obligation of the clinicians, physicians who actually use this material, knowingly what is the risk versus what is it's a risk. Obviously, you should also know as a patient in case if you are a patient or whatever reason. It is also your responsibility to ensure say, that the drug what is getting administered, especially if the AI drug. Have you done your homework whether it is safe to use? As of today, in my view, this is very clear. We can't keep waiting for authorities to rectify the problem. We can't keep always looking out saying who should be blamed for that thing. Finally, the sufferers are. Even if you put $1 billion claim on a company, they will pay it off. Who is the person who is finally getting suffered? If you have lost the limb, if you have defigured your face, that's your problem. Lifelong, you are supposed to live with that. Money will be given up by the authority, paid by the companies. Nothing. I mean, they have insurances for those kinds of people. Ultimately, it's a mutual obligation at this point in time. And it will continue to be the mutual obligation in future also. Why? Because we can't look answers to the law and law enforcement at any point in time, at all point in time. So you have to be careful when it comes to healthcare. Why? Because ultimate sufferers are you. You may get money that may not solve the problem. I think I'd leave it with this point and take your this.
Any other questions?
Discovery phase. DMTA saying for it will make test and analysis stage. Initially, it was around 3 to 5 years time. Today, it has been reduced to 3 to 6 months. Basically, today, if you identify a protein and you actually infuse that into the computation tools, whatever or generated tools, whatever you have, it will throw open the one. Obviously, you don't have to go to 50,000 or 60,000 molecules which needs to be evaluated. The number of molecules which we put for evaluation is reduced to around 5,000. That's a reduction in this. And in addition to that, these molecules, not only when the generative tools actually gives these suggestions to you, it not only tells you that this is a good molecule to reach the target, it will also tell you the toxicology standards of DMPK assessments on that. It actually goes next few steps ahead and says these are the good candidates. And from there, yes, of course, there is problems in that also. The AI tools might have missed out the good molecules which would have gone through otherwise the scientists would look into. But probability is this. It's all commercial evaluation. Here at this point in time, discovery phase, it's all commercial. Right? It is not about regulation. It is not about missing. It's all about missing the opportunity. They have to 3,000 molecules evaluation, take 3 years or 5 years time. Get to that place in 5 months. It's most commercially beneficial. No, it is beneficial. I would say, see, one thing which I wanted to clearly communicate to you here is why a regulator is not here is because I tell you one more thing. The toxicology studies, there are technology, platform technology, we call it as, where actually we can give the molecule structure, the protein structure into the systems, and it will tell you what is the toxicology levels of this, what is the DFT, is it, how much time the drug remains in the body, how much when the drug is going out of the body, what are the liabilities of the drug, when I say liabilities of the drug, what are its side impacts of the other organs. These are the things which technologies do give the answer for you. But today's regulation is that the authorities still require by you do whatever you want to do on the technology, platform technologies. For me to give you approval, you have to put it to the animal, you have to do the study, only then come back. That's why I told you toxicology, DMP case studies will continue to be monitored based on the animal studies, the regular procedure, the discovery phase has to be.
See, the largest third trial the world ever already happened. That's COVID. Right? So we still do not know. All of us went lined up and got those shots, right? We may not even relate to some diseases outcome that is coming later to this one. That's the point that we are saying. We didn't have the time. At that point in time, we were fighting, right? Why are we not getting that? While the pharma companies held the ransom, were saying that some of the governments who could not afford, they say like, give me your military assets, pledge them. I will give you the drug. We've seen both sides. So whatever is happening, it's okay happening. Yeah, what we are trying to do is that in this AI intervention, have we reached that stage? The answer is will we not, will we never reach it? Again, the answer is but at what cost is it?
Thank you, friends. Yeah, so
Sorry. Like there is an app. What that app will is the patient will upload his regularity and it will give that answer to. So if there is medical negligence, the person should do the other party's negligence first, and you should get. But in this respect to AI thing, how can you prove the AI is negligent because you are not able to see the black box and you are not able to see the.
No, yeah, I agree. See, the algorithm is still there. The algorithm, let's say, for example, if 90% of the population is able to predict, it's considered to be reasonable.
So if it is wrong, the burden will shift on the patient, subsequently is burden will shift on the.
No, see, by the way, these drugs are not something like you just go download and start using it. You still have to go to the doctor. Doctor will still have to prescribe it. Based on the prescriptions, the account will be created. And that is how you get access to that. And some of these are advanced. The doctor can continuously keep track of what's happening in your vitals by just using the app. You know that? While the doctor is prescribing, okay, now you can, I'm prescribing you, go and get the subscriptions and start using it. That means the doctor also gets access to the real-time information. The app also works the other way. The app also notifies to the doctor also saying that this patient sugar levels are low, and that's where the control is. The one that I spoke about, right? The doctor, when he gets a message, this person's sugar levels are so low, he can choose to let the AI decide the recommendation, or he can also say, no, I want the patient to visit and I want to check it. Options are there. It's not that like once it is outside, you have no control over it at all. We are talking about in circumstances when it fails, where the accountability is there. For that, when I talk about it, adequate measures have been taken to ensure test it. If it works in majority of it, if it still fails it, no drug is safe. So this is my point, right?
I think there is some confusion in your mind. Am I clear? Now you stand up. Let me clarify one. if there is a patient, one who shares information and AI gives some medication or prescription, etc., in India or anywhere in the world, this is unethical and prohibited. Under no circumstance, AI tool can substitute a doctor. AI assistant may help doctor. For example, 3.5 years ago, one particular chain of hospital, they approached us for legal opinion. They wanted to start bot, and accordingly, what can be done, what cannot be done as per the existing law. Bot can only assist, but bot cannot be a doctor. Therefore, there is a difference between the most important thing, because Karthik just now mentioned about COVID. No, one important developments of Karthik the COVID time is telemedicine. In telemedicine, it is not AI. AI only facilitates in terms of scheduling appointments. But otherwise, directly, you are going to meet the doctor, consult, take, etc. There is a procedure for it. This thing I want you to be bit clear. Okay. Now,
Just one example I want.
please.
Not just the drug. I'll tell you what other things also can be a trouble. You know, in the US, cost medical healthcare is very expensive, right? The insurance company, what typically does, they call as triage. First, you need to call that number. They will tell which is the hospital you will have to go. I'll tell you a very real situation. The patient calls and says that my kid is not sleeping well, and then it was automated. It was asking him to drive around 2.5 to 3 miles to a hospital. By the time he reached it, the condition became so worse, the child unfortunately died. You know what do you think could be the reason? There was no drug, nothing. There was no diagnosis. So the triage only said that network of hospitals are there. You go to this hospital. But that was run by a bot. The bot failed to tell them there is another hospital.
It's close by.
You understood my point, right? The bot was built purposefully to send them to the hospital where the insurance company has a tie-up.
Network hospital.
Right? So while that information was there, the logic was written to override it because it lacked that empathy. It didn't really look at the child and say, okay, this child actually cannot wait. You understand my point, right? If there was a human and looked at the child and somebody would have said, they probably would, okay, this actually, you know what, this child cannot wait for 3 miles or so. Let's take it there. But that's where the problem was. The bot did not have that empathy to analyze what was really going to the child. And it was absolutely fine to tell to go to the network hospital. But ultimately, the child lost. Right? So, I can tell a million such cases that I've seen. I'm telling that the liability will have to be paid, and that's what I'm telling. We don't want incremental change in law. Right? That's not the requirement. We need to revamp a lot of things because AI is not the monkey that's going to be gotten off the back. It's everywhere.
Friends, I think we have reached the time. I thought I'll just take 2 minutes. Recently, St. John's Medical College had a conference on a similar subject matter. We had a very interesting discussion about this aspect. Let me put it in terms of, in realistic world, doctor-patient relationship and AI related, how these two things. More or less the subject matter is the same. A 3-month-old baby born carcinogenic undergoing chemotherapy. 3 months. In fact, Indian origin, they are from a different country, they came, etc. Third cycle. Particular drug is to be injected intravenously. Accordingly, the nurse has injected. The child turned fingers bluish, Then they realized something went wrong. Doctor came back and accordingly transfusion of blood, everything. After 2 days, the child passed away. Before that only, the internal discussion revealed the dosage that is given to the child is 7 mg. The actual dosage is 1 mg. When doctor realized that how come 7 mg has been given, the nurse who is a oncologically trained nurse, she said on the prescription you only wrote 7 mg. Then he asked, you know that 7 mg is overdose, why did you give? Then she said, when you have written so clearly, I thought that's your clinical decision. And accordingly, and he realized he himself wrote 7 mg. I mean, child died, etc. And the parents, I mean, such a nice mother, and father was really upset, etc. Mother, she said, even God did not want my child to be alive with this pain. And that's so you became the means where the child has exit has been. Doctor was very, very upset, etc. And it's a clear case of culpable homicide not amounting to murder. It's clear. I don't think we require any other. Similar situation, baby is subjected to a particular dosage. The dosage is decided by AI2. And in a given case, the dosage was given and accordingly doctor administered, which happens to be overdosage and the child dies. In view of these two situations, now we are asking what should be the accountability when it comes to AI-driven diagnostic or medical administration of medicine, etc., whatever. Very honestly, Karthik mentioned very clearly, and even Mr. Nandakumar mentioned the kind of difficulties, dilemmas, etc. I come from one viewpoint which I may not be able to. As of now, I'm like black box. I may not be able to explain. But one thing I want to tell you, I am very clear. I think AI tool manufacturer must be made accountable. That's what I think. How do we do it? On what basis we do it? I don't have a ready-made answer, but I think the future is not too far where accountability law can be fixed. It is for the simple reason physician's role cannot be diminished because he cannot rely 100% on AI. But that does not mean AI tool manufacturer can get away with. After all, we are dealing with the lives of the people. In fact, in the morning I was sharing with Ms. Nandankumar, AI and legal profession, we have a lot of problems. But AI in healthcare, it deals with life. Therefore, we need to be very, very careful. With this note, thank you so much for the panelists for excellent interaction and presentation. And you only have to. Because she understood that I am encroaching upon her. I'm only thanking as chair. Excellent interaction. As I told you several times, any kind of this knowledge dissemination cannot have a particular end or a solution with one meal. No, this is ongoing. I'm sure every one of us we need to collectively look forward and do research, and then I'm sure on behalf of the organization, I thank our panelists for excellent. Thank you so much.
On behalf of KD Law College, Bangalore, I extend my sincere gratitude to Professor Dr. S.P. Jogarao for graciously chairing this session. Your presence and guidance have greatly contributed to the significance of this discussion. Thank you, sir, for your time and for being a part of this session. I request Dr. Mahadesh to kindly present a small token of appreciation to our esteemed chair.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I extend my sincere appreciation to the first speaker, Mr. Nandakumar Krishnajit, for being with us today. Your association with this session adds great value and inspiration to all present. Thank you for your time and for being a part of this discussion. I request Mr. Tanmay to kindly present a small token of appreciation to our esteemed speaker. Express our heartfelt thanks to Mr. Karthik Kanappan Sarvanan for joining us and sharing his valuable time. It is truly a privilege to have someone of his strata and experience with us today. We sincerely appreciate your presence and contribution to this session. I request Ms. Merin to kindly present a small token of appreciation to our esteemed everybody for being present here. Thank you.
ಇಲ್ಲ ಇಲ್ಲ ಎಲ್ಲೂ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಇಲ್ಲ